Today we are going to talk about SQLs. When a lead becomes sales ready, and how do you get the handoff right? So let me tell you what happens in a lot of companies. Marketing generates a lead. They call it an MQL. They pass it to sales. Sales looks at it. They make a call and they say, this person is not ready to buy. They were just browsing. They mark it as unqualified and they move on. So marketing now gets frustrated. We gave you a qualified lead, and sales gets frustrated. That wasn't qualified. They didn't even have a budget. And the lead? They probably go buy from a competitor. Why? Because no one followed up, and no one followed up properly. So here's the thing. Marketing qualified and sales qualified leads are two different things. And understanding the difference and managing the transition between MQL and SQL is one of the most important things that you can do to improve your revenue. So in the last video on MQLs, I had spoken about MQLs in detail, and today we're going to talk about SQLs, sales qualified leads, and how the whole funnel, they fit together. So let's get into it. What is an SQL? What does it mean? SQL is defined as sales qualified lead. It's a lead that sales has reviewed and they have confirmed that it's worth pursuing. It's not just someone who showed interest. It's someone who has vetted those leads, looked at the criteria to ensure that it becomes a real sales opportunity. And the key difference between an MQL and an SQL is who's actually doing the qualifying at this point. MQL is marketing's judgment. Remember, they're saying based on what this person did, the pages they visited, the content they downloaded, the forms they filled out, we think that they're worth talking to. That's what an MQL is. Whereas the SQL is sales judgment in play. They have actually talked to the person now. They have asked questions and they're saying, yes, this is a real potential buyer. I want to go ahead and work this deal with them. Now, not every MQL becomes an SQL, and that's totally okay. That's expected. That's part of the process. Marketing is casting a wider net based on behavior and signals, whereas sales is narrowing it down based on actual conversations. So the question is, what is the conversion rate? If you pass 100 MQLs to sales and only 5 become SQL, something might be broken. Either marketing's definition is too loose or sales is not working the leads properly, or there's a disconnect somewhere in what you are both looking at. So a healthy MQL to sales conversion rate depends on your business. But I like to see somewhere between 20 to 40%. If it's lower than that, then you need to look at your MQL definition. If it's higher than that, you might be leaving leads on the table by being too restrictive. Now, there's this entire framework called the BANT framework. So I'll talk about that in a moment. How does sales decide if a lead is qualified? So most companies, they use some version of this BANT framework. And BANT, it stands for budget, it stands for authority, need, and timeline. Those are the 4 criteria. So when you look at budget, does this person have money to spend? Can they afford what you're selling? If they're a tiny company and you're selling enterprise software at $100,000 a year, they're probably not qualified. Authority, is this the person who can make the decision? Or do they need to get approval from someone else? It's great to talk to someone who is interested, but if they are an intern and they're doing research, well, that's very different from talking to the VP who actually signs those contracts. You look at need. Do they actually have a problem that you are solving? Sometimes people are just curious. They're exploring. They don't have an urgent need. And that's not a bad thing. But it means that they're not ready to buy right now. And the last one is a timeline. When are they looking to make a decision? Someone who wants to buy in the next 30 days is very different from someone who is just starting to look and might buy in a year, or they might never buy at all. Either way, BANT is the classic framework that people fall back on, but it's not the only one. Some companies use variations. MEDIC is a very popular enterprise sales variation. CHAMP puts challenges first. The specific framework matters less than having a framework, a consistent way for sales to evaluate whether a lead is worth pursuing. The space between MQL and SQL is what I'm going to discuss right now. And here is something a lot of companies get wrong. You know, there's a space between MQL and SQL that needs to be managed and managed closely. See, what happens is when marketing, they pass an MQL to sales, that lead is not necessarily ready for a full sales conversation. They have shown interest, but they might not be ready to talk about buying yet. So this is where lead development comes in. So some companies call this the sales development group. You might have SDRs, these are sales dev reps, and their job specifically is to work that middle space. And that's an important role. An SDR takes the MQL, it reaches out, has initial conversations, and it figures out if this person is worth passing to a quota-carrying sales rep. They're doing the BANT qualification. They're asking those questions to see if the lead is real. So if the lead qualifies, it becomes an SQL and gets passed to an account exec to work the deal. And if it doesn't qualify, maybe it goes back to marketing for more nurture. Maybe they're not ready now, but they could be in 6 months. This SDR function is really valuable because it protects your sales rep from noise. It protects their time. You don't want your highest paid salespeople spending their day chasing leads that are not ready. You want them truly focused on leads that are most likely to close. And keep in mind, not every company they can afford a dedicated SDR team, especially smaller companies. But even if you don't have SDRs, you need someone doing this qualification step. Otherwise, MQL just pile up and they don't get worked on properly. And you might be leaving money on the table. So you have to consider building the full funnel. And let me zoom out a little bit and talk about the full funnel, because understanding how all these pieces fit together is very important. At the top, you have your total addressable market, right? And everyone could theoretically buy from you. Now you have leads and people who have engaged with you in some way. They have visited your website, they have signed up for something, they might have attended an event. And now you have MQLs, leads that meet marketing's criteria for being something that is worth pursuing. Then you have sales, MQLs that sales has talked to and confirmed that these are real opportunities. And now you have opportunities that you're pursuing, SQLs that are actively being worked as deals, usually with a dollar amount attached. And then you also have this closed one, deals that are actually signed against a larger pool of deals that are available. So at each stage, there's a conversion rate, and not everyone moves to the next stage. And understanding those conversion rates is how you diagnose problems and you forecast revenue. If your lead to MQL rate is low, maybe your content is not attracting the right people. If your MQL to SQL rate is low, maybe your MQL definition is too loose or sales is not following up. If your SQL to opportunity rate is low, maybe sales is not qualifying the deals well. If your opportunity to close rate is low, maybe you have a product problem or a pricing problem or maybe even a competitive problem. So each conversion rate, they tell you something. And when you track them over time, you start to see patterns that help you improve. So the key thing is to get marketing and sales aligned, like I mentioned before. The biggest thing I want you to take away from this video, the biggest thing is that marketing and sales, they need to be aligned on the whole funnel, not just their piece of it. And this starts with shared definitions. Marketing and sales should sit down together and agree on what an MQL is, what an SQL is, what criteria matter. Write it down and make it explicit. Next, shared metrics. Both teams, they should care about the revenue, not just their handoff point. Marketing should not just be measured on MQL volume. They should see what happens to those MQLs. How many became SQLs? How many closed? What was the revenue? Same with the sales. They should not just blame marketing for bad leads. They should provide the feedback. And this helps marketing to calibrate their scoring algorithms. Regular communication helps, and I like to see weekly or bi-weekly meetings where marketing and sales review the pipeline together. What is coming in? What is converting? What is getting stuck? And where are the bottlenecks? And finally, shared accountability is very important. In the best companies, in the very best companies that I've worked with, there is a revenue target that both marketing and sales own together, not separate targets that they can point fingers about. One number that they are both trying to hit. And when you start doing this, the MQL, SQL finger pointing goes away. They start aligning because everyone is focused on the same outcome, revenue. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. We're going to talk about Net Promoter Scores. Take care. Bye-bye.